Lindens and acacias drew an intricate pattern of spots on the ground in the garden. The triple bay window, open but covered by a curtain, was lit with a furious electric light. In Margarita Nikolaevna's bedroom all the lamps were burning, illuminating the total disorder in the room. On the blanket on the bed lay shifts, stockings and underwear. Crumpled underwear was also simply lying about on the floor next to a box of cigarettes crushed in the excitement. Shoes stood on the night table next to an unfinished cup of coffee and an ashtray in which a butt was smoking. A black evening dress hung over the back of a chair. The room smelled of perfume. Besides that, the smell of a red-hot iron was coming from somewhere. Margarita Nikolaevna sat in front of the pier glass, with just a bathrobe thrown over her naked body, and in black suede shoes. A gold bracelet with a watch lay in front of Margarita Nikolaevna, beside the box she had received from Azazello, and Margarita did not take her eyes from its face. At times it began to seem to her that the watch was broken and the hands were not moving. But they were moving, though very slowly, as if sucking, and at last the big hand fell on the 29th minute past 9. Margarita's heart gave a terrible thump, so that she could not even take hold of the box right away. Having mastered herself, Margarita opened it and saw in the box a rich, yellowish cream. It seemed to her that it smelt of swamp slime. With the tip of her finger, Margarita put a small dab of the cream on her palm. The smell of swamp grass and forest grew stronger, and then she began rubbing the cream into her forehead and cheeks with her palm. The cream spread easily and, as it seemed to Margarita, evaporated at once. Having rubbed several times, Margarita glanced into the mirror and dropped the box right on her watch crystal, which became covered with cracks. Margarita closed her eyes, then glanced once again and burst into stormy laughter. Her eyebrows, plucked to a thread with tweezers, thickened and lay in even black arches over her greening eyes. The thin vertical crease cutting the bridge of her nose, which had appeared back then, in October, when the master vanished, disappeared without a trace. So did the yellowish shadows at her temples and the two barely noticeable little webs of wrinkles at the outer corners of her eyes. The skin of her cheeks filled out with an even pink color, her forehead became white and clear, and the hairdresser's waves in her hair came undone. From the mirror, a naturally curly, black-haired woman of about 20 was looking at the 30-year-old Margarita, baring her teeth and shaking with laughter. Having laughed her fill, Margarita jumped out of her bathrobe with a single leap, dipped freely into the light, rich cream, and with vigorous strokes began rubbing it into the skin of her body. It at once turned pink and tingly. That instant, as if a needle had been snatched from her brain, the ache she had felt in her temple all evening after the meeting in the Alexandrovsky garden subsided, her leg and arm muscles grew stronger, and then Margarita's body became weightless. She sprang up and hung in the air just above the rug, then was slowly pulled down and descended. "What a cream! What a cream!" cried Margarita, throwing herself into an armchair. The rubbings changed her not only externally. Now joy was boiling up in her, in all of her, in every particle of her body, which felt to her like bubbles prickling her body all over. Margarita felt herself free, free of everything. Besides, she understood with perfect clarity that what was happening was precisely what her presentiment had been telling her in the morning, and that she was leaving her house and her former life forever. But, even so, a thought split off from this former life about the need of fulfilling just one last duty before the start of something new, extraordinary, which was pulling her upwards into the air. And, naked as she was, she ran from her bedroom, flying up in the air time and again, to her husband's study, and, turning on the light, rushed to the desk. On a page torn from a notebook, she penciled a note quickly and in big letters, without any corrections. "Forgive me and forget me as soon as possible. I am leaving you forever. Do not look for me, it is useless. I have become a witch from the grief and calamities that have struck me. It's time for me to go. Farewell. Margarita." With a completely unburdened soul, Margarita came flying into the bedroom, and after her ran Natasha, loaded down with things. At once all these things, a wooden hanger with a dress, lace shawls, dark blue satin shoes on shoe trees and a belt, all of it spilled on the floor, and Natasha clasped her freed hands. "What, nice?" Margarita Nikolaevna cried loudly in a hoarse voice. "How can it be?" Natasha whispered, backing away. "How did you do it, Margarita Nikolaevna?" It's the cream. The cream, answered Margarita, pointing to the glittering golden box and turning around in front of the mirror. Natasha, forgetting the wrinkled dress lying on the floor, ran up to the pier glass and fixed her greedy, lit-up eyes on the remainder of the cream. Her lips were whispering something. She again turned to Margarita and said with a sort of awe. And, oh, the skin. The skin. Margarita Nikolaevna, your skin is glowing. But she came to her senses, ran to the dress, picked it up and began shaking it out. Leave it. Leave it. Margarita shouted to her. Devil take it. Leave it all. Or, no, keep it as a souvenir. As a souvenir, I tell you. Take everything in the room. As if half-witted, the motionless Natasha looked at Margarita for some time, then hung on her neck, kissing her and crying out.